Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're covering the good, the bad, and the ugly of Disney's live-action remakes. This three-way duel will have a few spoilers. Good. Changing and updating problematic storylines. Disney classics can be a mixed bag at times. In short, not every element in a Disney film has aged gracefully.
You want to make the elephant fly, don't you? Well, you gotta use a lot of collagen, psychology.
There are racial caricatures, off-color dialogue, dark story beats, strange song lyrics, the works. Then there's Song of the South, which hasn't even been made available by Disney due to the long controversy about its racial stereotypes.
Stop jumping, Bear Rabbit, you'll run out of breath. Why don't you sit down and calm yourself?
Live-action remakes have the benefit of changing and eliminating these problematic elements. Whether they are always for the better is another thing entirely.
Let me try again.
But overall, most of the controversial scenes from the original films are not present in the live-action remake. It's perhaps for the best.
We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties.
Good. A new version for a new generation. It's sad to say, but things are not always available. While most people who grew up with Disney's original classics would show them to their children, sometimes that isn't feasible.
I set certain rules, and I expect those rules to be obeyed.
Disney chose a strategy of heavily restricting their films' releases, known as the Disney Vault. The company would release one of their films for a limited time and then withdraw them from the market, returning them to the vault, as it were.
On the stroke of 12, the spell will be broken, and everything will be as it was before.
This is great for Disney, but not so much for families. Making live-action remakes for a new generation raised on CGI animation can serve as an introduction to these classics. Of course, with the advent of Disney Plus, the issue of accessibility is less so, but it's still a consideration.
I am so sorry.
Oh, think nothing of it, my dear.
Good. Actors and settings are more real than their animated counterparts. Sometimes there are benefits to realism. There are no limits to animation, with plenty of energy and charisma to be found in these original films.
Be our guest, put our service to the test.
There is one thing live action can arguably do better: ground the situation and thus elicit more emotions. Actors have the advantage of fleshing out otherwise static animated characters personality-wise with some dramatic choices.
It's you I want. I want to see you suffer like I've suffered all these years.
Also, having beloved and iconic characters be realized by flesh and blood actors is undoubtedly an attraction. Besides, the live-action cinematography and set design can be gorgeous in their own right.
I made you look like a prince on the outside, but I didn't change anything on the inside.
Good. Creative and new perspectives. Live-action remakes have been criticized for their superfluity, especially since many cleave so close to the source material. However, there are cases of genuinely creative spins.
Well, well. What a glittering assemblage, King Stefan.
Maleficent, for one, is less of a remake of Sleeping Beauty than a reinterpretation, refashioning the fairy as a misunderstood villain who comes to care for Aurora.
I know who you are.
Do you?
You're my fairy godmother.
What?
Cruella also follows this villain origin story theme, depicting Cruella as a victim of classism and struggling to break into the rapacious world of fashion. Successful or not, these remakes prove that live-action remakes can provide a different spin on an old classic.
I find it very difficult to say no to you sometimes.
It's one of the things I love about you.
Bad. Fewer original films. Unfortunately, we live in a world dominated by IP. With all these live-action remakes crowding the market, original films get fewer and fewer every day.
You're a man, aren't you? That's what makes you a man. You can summon the red flower.
All the time and energy Disney is pouring into these expensive films could have gone to new projects or even current ones they have already embarked on. The likes of A Wrinkle in Time and Artemis Fowl were disappointments at best. But that doesn't mean Disney should solely rely on remakes.
Artemis, it's too dangerous.
Exactly. It's useless in my hands.
Not to mention, the live-action remakes of Disney classics have, too, been critical disappointments, sometimes severe ones. Why not take more chances on something new?
Oh, I had the strangest dream. I dreamt that we had all been swallowed by a whale.
Bad. Lazy nostalgia bait and cash grabs. This is perhaps the most common complaint about these live-action remakes. Disney is not remaking their animated classics because they are driven by a new, fresh artistic vision.
Ever as before, ever just as sure.
Live-action remakes are done to cater to the demographic who grew up on their classic films. Now that the demographic has grown up, Disney opted for a dual audience strategy: nostalgia bait for the older generation and new introductions for the younger generations.
How many wonders can one cavern hold?
For those already familiar with the classic films, the new remakes often bring nothing new to the table. Moreover, they can be more boring and even inferior compared to the artistry of the original films. It's enough to wonder, what's the point?
I have pledged an oath to be loyal, brave, and true.
Bad. Some actors are not as fit for their characters. With live-action remakes comes live-action actors, and let's face it, some of the casting choices Disney made were dubious at best.
I once adventure in the great white somewhere.
Emma Watson may have seemed initially like a dead ringer for Belle in Beauty and the Beast, having ample experience playing a bookish brunette, but her seemingly auto-tuned singing, as well as deliberate changes in characterization, had some fans wondering if the casting was ill-suited after all.
It's wonderful.
While Will Smith's Genie had a warm charm, it's a very tall order to match the wit and energy of Robin Williams.
Wish fulfillment?
3 wishes to be exact. An ixnay on the wishing for more wishes. That's it.
Then there are the controversial colorblind castings, which have sparked endless discourse online. Overall, it's a mixed bag.
You would have just heard him, Father. He's compassionate and kind.
He's a human!
Bad. More realism doesn't mean better art. It should go without saying that realism in media is just as much an artistic choice as fantasy and surrealism. Real life, after all, is not as desaturated as the cinematography of these movies would suggest.
Oh. I like it.
It's just a convention, and one that is perhaps misapplied here. Disney films are filled with idealized fantasy, including talking animals and magical creatures.
Why, you're a cat.
A Cheshire cat.
These are not easily realized in a more realistic live-action setting. By far, the most egregious example of this is 2019's The Lion King. The intense photorealism does not serve the story at all, with the original animated feature inspiring more depth of emotion.
You deliberately disobeyed me, and what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
Our take? This is Disney we're talking about. Lay off the realism. Bad. Live-action remakes lose money. With the many artistic problems and controversies surrounding these projects, it's no surprise that Disney has lost significant money with these remakes.
Kill me if you must. But first, listen.
While the live-action versions of Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Aladdin, and The Lion King were all box office successes, the same cannot be said to be true for other remakes. Mulan grossed $57 million internationally on a budget of $200 million, and Dumbo could not break even either.
This is an aberration, travestation, and I demand my money back.
Some remakes, like Lady and the Tramp, didn't even get a theatrical release. Even if the films start off strong, some have faltered overseas. That's not to mention the critical and audience responses.
I came too close for the first time.
Ugly. Live action is mostly bad CGI animation. The open secret of these live action remakes is that they are called so in most cases because they have human leads. Otherwise, it's a CGI fest in almost all respects, requiring extensive voice acting.
This is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky.
What is this?
Even some of the locations are CGI. The most egregious instance is 2019's The Lion King, which had no human actors whatsoever. By all accounts, it's another animated film, just CGI instead of hand-drawn.
Lady, you've got your lions crossed.
Nice. With the prevalence of CGI, what is the point of remaking an animated film? As for the quality of the CGI, it varies greatly, but for the most part, the results have not been great. Fans have complained the films look murkier and blander than their original, colorful counterparts. It's a wash.
I'm nothing. Then bow to your king!
Ugly. Live action misses the point of the original films with bad changes. The live action remakes opt for many departures from the original films, some inconsequential and others not so much. But many tend to take umbrage at the fact that these changes miss the point of the original entirely, especially with regards to characterization.
You monster! Don't be a fool, you little brat!
Ariel did not need to be the one to defeat Ursula in the remake, since she already saved Eric 3 times in the original. Animated Jasmine had no problem speaking out, so why is her live-action counterpart singing about how she's speechless?
All I know is I won't go speechless, speechless.
Then, there's the live-action Cinderella, arguably more passive than her animated counterpart. forgiving her stepmother at the end. It's baffling at best and ugly at worst.
I forgive you.
Ugly, too close to the original film. When the remakes are not making strange changes, they are busy dutifully recreating the scenes from their animated original. Sometimes, these animated recreations are literally shot by the shot.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
That was the controversy 2019's The Lion King generated upon its release. The majority of the dialogue was left largely unchanged, give and take some additions and deletions.
Mufasa has always shown too much restraint when it comes to hunting.
Hans Zimmer returned to score the remake, as did James Earl Jones, who reprised his role as Mufasa.
Simba, you must take your place in the circle of life.
Apart from the clear nostalgia bait, it could be that Disney itself realizes that there's little wrong with the original films, and they have stood the test of time very well. Hence, the lack of true changes.
Pressures of ruling a kingdom
are no longer yours. Step down, Scar.
Ugly. Controversies galore. The latest controversies around the new live-action remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs are too many to cover here.
The queen is evil. You must flee into the woods.
Before that disastrous press tour, many other Disney live-action remakes generated backlash. The casting of Halle Bailey and Rachel Zegler as Ariel and Snow White, respectively, infuriated both purists and racists alike. Beauty and the Beast opted to make LeFou pine for Gaston, brought on accusations of pandering and lack of substantial LGBTQ+ representation.
I needed encouragement. Thank you, LeFou. Well, there's no one as easy to bolster as you. Too much?
Add in lyric changes, removing all the songs of Mulan, and questionably feminist plot changes, and it's a gumbo soup of controversy.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Ugly. The new generation would prefer the live action than the original. Some Disney classics have aged superbly well and are highly rewatchable today. Others, not so much. Regardless, they are all a part of Disney's history. It's good for kids to be exposed to the different artistic conventions and even ideas of previous eras. With these live-action remakes, the new generation is largely exposed to these new films.
I don't think I like this adventure.
It's limiting to a child's education, not the least because these films tend to remove controversial elements of the original films that could serve as teachable moments. The result can be the cinematic equivalent of bland porridge, drained of all life, and our kids, frankly, deserve better.
Real character is always going to shine through.
Do you think there is more good than bad when it comes to Disney live-action remakes? Or is it an ugly trend we'll be glad to see dead? Let us know in the comments down below.
The circle of life.